Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on the complexity of student accounts and solving those problems. We'll begin shortly. Just give us a few minutes to let some other folks jump into the conversation. We are recording this for future use, as well as anyone that signed up and was unable to attend, so they can have it just for your information. As people come in, we're just waiting just a couple minutes and we'll go ahead and get started. Right. Well, it is 2 o'clock on the dot. And so we'll go ahead and get started here in just 1 second as I'm trying to figure out my screens here as they're opening and closing. Let's see. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're super excited to have you guys here today. It should be a really good presentation, and I'll go through the agenda in just a second, but please be prepared to have some questions available for our expert attendees and panel discussion. So we'll go ahead and get jumping into the presentation. So let's see. I've got like screens going everywhere all of a sudden. Okay, so welcome and super excited about this webinar as we have some amazing focus experts to discuss student accounts. So first, we have Lauren Chamberlain with over a decade in student account financial services and admin. Laura likes to refer to herself as a seasoned professional with a dedication to shake down students to get every penny out of them. Eric Mayo with three decades of experience in higher education. We had to plan this webinar around his daily nap. And Shane Cross, with about 3 months of higher education, is afraid to leave his house because often he's mistaken for Bigfoot. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So here's the agenda. We did the introductions. We'll go over student account management. We'll talk about enhancing the student account. Oh, I'm not even sharing my screen, am I? Let's do that. Give you guys something to look at while I'm talking. All right, so you guys can see it? It's up there? Okay, great. Thank you. I just need to find out where my notes went. There they are. Okay. So we went over introductions. We'll talk about student account management. We'll go through a bunch of things related to student accounts. We'll also squeeze in a quick demo of the intuition payment solution at the end, only about 10 minutes. And then after that, we're going to do our drawing, which Taylor has devised a very cool spin wheel that we'll do at the very end for a $50 Amazon gift card, or we'll donate to one of your favorite charities. I am struggling with PowerPoint today, which is okay. So first, I think it's important to note that Intuition is a Ferrilli company that has been around for over a decade. The employee base is comprised of Ferrilli payment experts and .NET developers. And 2 years ago, we set out on a journey to create the best payment plan of all higher education with a commitment that if it's not, we'll change it. And Shane, I'm going to bring you in to talk a little bit more about Intuition. You may be muted, Shane.
Sorry about that. So we did a complete redesign and rebuild of the tuition assistant product. We didn't want to just put a new coat of paint on it. we wanted it updated to work with the latest and greatest technology so that we would have an easier time performing integrations, implementing new features. And we've really, did a lot of focus groups with our current client base and potential future clients to find out what the pain points were that everybody's been experiencing so that we can eliminate those pain points in our new solution. And I've got to say, I'm actually really proud of what we've done so far.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So with that, let's dive into, student accounts. Let's get into what you guys are here for to hear about. And as I mentioned, we will do a quick 10-15 minute demo at the very end, and then we'll do a drawing for the Amazon gift card. So Eric and Lauren, I pulled up some kind of the cliches, but are obviously, very important parts of the student account management. And Eric, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. And when you think about, what are the principles or the best practices for student accounts, what do you like to focus on?
Well, for starters, of course, you want to make sure that you have accuracy in your record keeping that you have at the institution, all the way from the point where the person's being admitted into the institution and maybe any deposits that you need to collect from the student. You want to make sure all that data is out there that the student and or parents, because they're paying it, sometimes they're the one that's making that payment, have an accurate way and detailed information and instructions so that they know where they need to go to make those payments. Accurate record keeping is essential to any institution, college or university, whether it's financial management, compliance with your federal, your state, your local regulations that you might have. Make sure that transparency is out there to student, staff, and any of your stakeholders. Another aspect is to make sure you also have timely billing cycles. So for your continuing students, to make sure that that data is going out there on a timely manner. You want to make sure that students are provided with enough information that they can take and respond accordingly so that they're not questioning whether or not this tuition charge is based on the classes that they registered for today or yesterday. So you want to make sure you have those efficient methods of updating that data quickly and real time if possible, of course, but that information is going to be updated as they need it, and that the students can make that payment, and the parents can make that payment as they should. Timely, make sure adjustments are noted. So if there's any charges, if they make any registration changes, that those credits and new charges are accurately reflected on their student account. Any other situations that you might have, like third-party payments, cash receipts, or payments that are made to the student on the student's behalf, or financial aid that might be credited into their accounts as well, so are credited to their account.
Thank you, Eric. And Lauren, I'm going to pass this off to you. If you would just say hi to the group here, and then also give us, what you think about when you talk about best practices for student account management.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending our presentation today, and I hope you get some good nuggets of information. The first thing, and I think thing that comes top of mind for me, is the user-friendly interfaces. And I think any of us know what it's like to experience a website that's frustrating or difficult to navigate or difficult to find answers. And I think for higher ed institutions to survive in the modern landscape, having user-friendly interfaces is absolutely essential. So making sure students and families can find information on your website, that once they're enrolled, they can access key information and key processes, maybe through a self-service portal, and that you're not, unintentionally creating barriers to student success by virtue of a frustrating or not user-friendly interface. And then, of course, communication. Communication needs to be timely and frequent, but it also needs to be intentional and strategic. You want to coordinate communication across campus so you're not bombarding students with several emails covering several topics all at one time. And especially on the student accounts front, I always stress the importance of transparent communication. There should be no mysteries in student accounts. Students should be able to go out and understand what they've been billed, why they've been billed that, and then what's available as far as satisfactory payment options or what's going on with their financial aid, and get that information accessibly and readily available.
That's awesome. So thank you, Lauren and Eric, for that. And I just also wanted to encourage the attendees, if you have questions, you can raise your hand or you can put them in chat. These are expert consultings from Ferrilli that we're talking with. So if you have a specific question, please feel free to either put it in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll address those as we go through. So moving on to enhancing the student experience. So let's pose a question to the panel. What are your experiences that help enhance student experiences? So Lauren, I'll go ahead and direct this one to you.
Sure. And I think this continues in the same vein of what I was just speaking on. And the student experience should be intuitive, it should be streamlined. Any of the administrative processes that they need to complete should be secondary. Oh, Tom, your shared screen just went away, just as an FYI. Any of the administrative processes that students have to complete should be secondary to their education. They should not have to be thinking or spending a lot of time thinking about, having to go out and pay their bill. They should know exactly where they go, where they find their billing information, how to pay it. And like I mentioned on the last slide, the detail and the transparency should be there and immediately available to them. And I also like to stress, provide self-service options as often as possible. Like, it may seem obvious to some institutions or common sense, but maybe not common practice. Things like password resets or the ability to enroll in a payment plan or change payment information, or update their personal information. As many things as you can make available via self-service portals, and put that control in the student and parent and family's hands can help mitigate some of those barriers to student completion simply because they can't work through an administrative process.
That's fantastic stuff. So Eric, what do you have to add on that as well?
Sure. I think you would want to make sure that you enhance that student experience overall. Make sure that there aren't any payment restrictions that are going to prevent that student from payment. So there are minimum steps to make a payment. It should be a couple of clicks and you'll be accessing the environment that you need to access to make that payment. They have step-by-step instructions, whether that's in a frequently asked questions or a procedure guide that you make for the student. Some schools have actually gone out there, and I encourage as well, make a step-by-step video on how to make a payment so that the student actually understands that information. You want to make sure that there are less verification steps that they have to go through. Of course, you want multi-factor authentication in there, but make sure that there are very few steps that the student has to go through. If you are working with a payment vendor, you want to make sure that payment information is saved. So if they want to use the same credit card that they used last semester to make a payment, they can actually use that same credit card. So it's a couple of clicks away. It's all about the clicks and saving your clicks that you have out there. Sorry, I just remembered our cartoon that I used to watch, The Jetsons, where George Essence always was about how many clicks he had to do in a day for his daily job. At the space rockets. So just came back in my head. Anyway, also that there is mobile-friendly applications. A lot of people, when they're accessing data, they're actually accessing that information from their phone. They're not on a computer. I know we, in my generation, we still use computers as our primary resource, but of course you also make your phones. I know a lot of my bills I just pay on my phone now. I think when I access my bank account, it's mostly on my phone than my computer because I'm thinking about it, when I'm, riding in a plane or away from a computer and I can access it immediately. And you want to make sure you have those frequently asked questions and support resources out there. Students are going to be looking for, if they have questions, you want to make sure that they can go out there to the frequently asked questions. Information's there. Typically, they have those questions and they're accessing information at 12 midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning, when we're not working, or at least we're not working, that they can call us. We're probably doing other work. But you want to make sure they have those resources and they have links to different places. I've always, since, 2000, have a place where a student can go out there and they can link to the information that's very useful for their understanding their bills. Understanding everything about student accounts, where payments are coming from, who they should contact, all those information should be out there in your FAQs.
Yeah, that's great information. I think AI is going to kind of change that too a little bit as far as FAQs and how we research some of that stuff. And I think also too, you have to take into consideration your customers. A lot of them are going to be the parents, and they're not going to be accessing this per se on a PC. They are going to be accessing it on a phone. So you do need to make that as easy as possible for them to do so as well. Taylor, keep us abreast if there's any related questions as we're going through. All right, so here we are, leveraging technology for improving efficiency. So, Lauren, I'm going to go back to you. So, tell me, when you look at this and you're working with an institution, and actually, I want to back up one sec and ask Eric a quick question. Um, as you're doing some of the enhancing the experiences, do you recommend that any of the institutions go out and send out like a survey of their experience? Is it worth doing that? Is that any beneficial to the institutions to do a survey of what their experience is like and take some of their feedback?
Sure, it's always great to get that continuous feedback. I mean, you want to always have those internal audits at your institution where you're going out there, not only from the stakeholders of the students, the parents. I always like to have a question or a survey at the end, ask them if they have a couple of minutes to actually answer the survey to enhance your product. It's not only helping you provide better services to your stakeholders, but it's also improving their knowledge, improving the next student and the next generation after that, or the next year. I guess it's not a whole generation, but the next year students and the years after that as they come into your institution. So surveys are good. You also want to audit yourself. I think you want to make sure that your stakeholders at your institution that might be using it might have other feedback to it. So I like to send it over to a marketing department, making sure that they agree with the website. Also, other functional areas that might have input into student accounts, whether it's the register or financial aid, the other two entities that student accounts works with very closely.
That's awesome. Laura, I think this ties into well what you're going to discuss, leveraging technology for improving efficiency. I'm going to pose this one to you.
Sure. And this is probably one of our favorite things to talk about because much of the work that Eric and I do is helping schools leverage their technology. But I can't stress enough the importance of taking a step back and looking at all of your processes and finding a way to automate anything that can be automated and still serve the students in the way that you intend to serve them, and streamline your office. And I know, I always say that this is an obnoxious recommendation sometimes because I know what it's like to be in your shoes and be overwhelmed by just the sheer volume, especially if you're a trimly staffed office. But it pays it forward to take the time and just automate as much of that administrative burden as you can so your team can really focus intentional efforts on serving students on those counseling phone calls and counseling sessions and really working with students to help them understand the process or help them understand their billing statement or help them understand the financial decisions that they're making at your institution. There's so many benefits to automating your processes, and in the modern landscape, most ERPs have incredible capacity to do so. It's just about carving out that time intentionally to step back, map out your processes, and figure out what you can automate.
Yeah, I think you mentioned as we were prepping for this webinar to even as you're going through your daily process, you can, when you run into a manual process that you're having to go through, just jot a note down, maybe a sticky note, and just kind of see what those are that maybe when you do meet with a consultant or you're talking with the IT department, you can ask, are these things automatable? So great information and great recommendation just to take a breath, step back, and see what your processes are and see if they can be automated. And Eric, I'm asking you to your take on technology and improving, as I know this is near and dear to you as well.
Sorry, was on mute. Correct. I think it's very important to make sure that you have that seamless technology integration with your systems. Like Lauren said, this is something that we deal with on a daily basis as we conduct our consulting services. You want to make sure that I look at it from the student cycle perspective. Always, first and foremost, I want to make sure that it's convenient for students. You want to have like simplified integrations, that there's a seamless interaction between your institution and making that payment, that there's easy to use platforms that can reduce the stress for the student. I think Lauren indicated earlier, the student's primary aspect here is to learn and to engage in their education. We want to make sure the administrative services that they have are easy for them. Like it's not even a thought that would go into their daily lives. Of course, paying your bill can be a little bit stressful, but we want to make sure that the convenience, that the tool out there for them to make the payment is actually very easy. And another thing is that it's accessible. You want to make sure that there aren't any downtimes associated with your system. The digital tools are user-friendly, online payment system, mobile responsive, platform independent, so it can work on iPhones as well, iOS system as well as an Android if it needs to, as well as any Windows or Mac users as well. So computer, tablet, smartphone, any of those modalities that are out there. Clear instructions and guidance when possible. You want to make sure you can send that data out to them very quickly, whether it's an email or, of course, generations might be more inclined to text messages. So you want to be able to have a mobile friendly aspect as well. So you can text the student when necessarily. And I talked a little bit about single sign-on a little bit. I mentioned it a couple of seconds ago, but you want to make sure you have that with your payment processor if possible, that there is an additional login. Once they're into your portal or your institutional portal that's associated with your SIS system, that they can actually access that data very quickly to make the payments.
Yeah, just a seamless experience for them, particularly once they've logged in once, not to have to go in and log in again. So keep those questions coming. We are going to have a Q&A time. And again, if you do ask a question, we're going to put your name in the drawing twice for the big wheel that's going to happen. So this is always a fun topic for us payment guys, right? Compliance and security and payment processing. And I'm interested to get the solution consultants take on this, as far as what you guys think are some of the pieces that are downfalls or whatever that student accounts kind of run into. And Lauren, I'm going to go back to you. What do you think some of the things they can look at as far as regulations and compliance in student accounts?
Sure. As I'm sure most of the folks on this call are aware, data security, compliance with data security, very, very proactive approaches to data security are absolutely paramount these days, especially for higher education institutions. I know we at Ferrilli have worked with several schools who have been unfortunately victims of things like ransomware attacks, and the downstream consequences and the long-term consequences of successful attacks like that on any company, but including higher ed, can just be detrimental. The loss of data itself is terrible, maybe the loss of trust with your constituents, financial losses. And so ensuring that you're going out of your way to protect your students' information and your institutional information should be a priority of every office, regardless of whether or not you're a member of the IT team. Certainly, I think collaboration with your IT team is typically necessary to successfully do so. And the reality is there's several regulations at play that govern data that's maintained and used by higher education institutions. Most of you are probably familiar with FERPA, which governs the use of student data, but there's lots of additional regulations like GLBA, the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, HIPAA, if you have any sort of health-related information that's maintained by your school, GDPR, especially for financial institutions or if you lend through your institution. States, of course, have their own brand of data security laws that you should be mindful of. And then as we're talking payment processing, PCI compliance is essential. The reality is, there may be a member on your campus who's responsible for compliance with these regulations, but my recommendation is if you interact with this data, you should understand the regulations that govern it, and you should be extremely mindful of how and when to share data and how your data is secured. I often talk to schools about, do students email you sensitive information, or do you email student information between school constituents? And the reality that email is not that secure, and that you can oftentimes pretty seamlessly encrypt emails, and just taking that extra step to protect data. I think most schools assume it'll never happen to you. Individuals assume it'll never happen to you, but these nefarious bad actors are getting more and more creative in getting credentials and using that information to steal school and student information. I think Shane even talked about a new approach to collecting bad information called social engineering, where they use viral posts to collect things like your first dog's name and the street you grew up on, and your first, boyfriend's name. And it might seem like a silly viral post to participate in, only to discover that someone is going to use that to answer your security questions and gain access to your account. So be mindful of the regulations and be mindful of how to keep your data secure. And I think the key there is that's everyone's responsibility, not just IT or not just the registrar's office for FERPA and so on.
Yeah, and I think investing in phishing awareness software is a great additive that schools should be looking at. I know here at Ferrilli we do a phishing drawing every month to see who caught the most of them and reported the most of them. And Robert's thing is don't click on anything, don't click on any link, just don't do it. I mean, he can't stress that enough. But I think even students, it's worth making them aware of phishing attacks as well, just to protect your institution as they're kind of getting in there as well. And it can easily overload it into your IT structure as well. So I highly encourage pushing out phishing awareness and encourage the school to kind of become a champion of teaching that to the kids as well. So Eric, what do you emphasize in compliance and security?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned a few of those things. One, I was last month's winner of that contest for the phishing contest. So, have a little bit of experience in that myself, which was great. That was great to actually win. I get plenty of phishing attempts.
Laura Rudolph is over in the
lot. Okay. Sorry about that. So you want to make sure that when you're working with payment information that you're securing that information, whether it's encryption, security access protocols, and regular audits. It's just not a technical necessity that you have to do at your school. It's an integral part of maintaining your integrity, your privacy, your trust as a financial institution within your institution. So like Lauren says, it's not just IT's responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility at the institution. It helps protect your sensitive information and encourage your compliance with regulatory standards, whether they're, state, local, federal, internationals as well. Sometimes if you have international students that are associated with your institution, we must, as educational institutions, we have to continue to make sure that we modernize our payment systems. The importance of robust security practices can be overstated. Failure to secure that payment data can lead into heavy fines at your institution. You can be penalized. I mean, you can jeopardize your institutional financial stability by just one data breach at your institution. So I think what you want to do is to make sure that you mitigate the risk of any cyber attacks at your institutions. Of course, we mentioned phishing earlier, but making sure that there aren't any other ransomwares, man-in-the-middle attacks that you might have at your institution. They're increasing continuously as more and more technology is just enhancing. It's easier, of course, now with computers and the capacities of computers for bad intentions to actually hack institutions. I mean, fraud's increasing tremendously over institutions. I know I have a few states that are out there that are looking for that, especially in the states of Michigan and California, where fraud has just been rampant through, especially the community college district. I have a lot of schools that are looking into creating software that can identify any potential fraud that they have at their institutions. They're engaging with third-party vendors at EDUCAUSE. I know I talked to at least 4 or 5 vendors that came to our booth, Ferrilli's booth there, and regarding potential fraud and making sure that we're protecting our students against that. Encryption, you want to make sure that there's an encryption at your institution to make sure that that data is going to be safe. Encryption in your storage, encryption in your backups. It's not just making sure that the data that's coming to and from the student is encrypted, but also that they cannot access your database at your institution. The last thing I want to mention is that making sure that you have regular audits and monitoring of your systems. I talked a little bit earlier about continuous audits of your student population and making sure that you do surveys to make sure your system is working, but you also want those internal audits. You want to do any penetration testing to make sure that there aren't any soft spots in your security that students and bad intenders can actually get through. Create those audit trails. Any plan that you create or any information should be included in your institutional security plan at your school, and make sure that you have information or backups or continuity plans installed at your institution. If there is an attack and your system has to come down, that you have backups and you have ways to circumvent that information and recover very quickly.
And I would be amiss if I didn't mention multi-factor authentication. I think it's becoming the norm now, and I think it's required in a lot of states, but just wanted to mention that as well, as it's a simple thing to do that really does inhibit bad actors from getting into the systems as well.
Shane had a question?
Yeah,
Shane,
well,
go ahead.
I want to speak a little bit about security and particularly about social engineering. So in the last 5 years, social engineering has been the primary attack vector for over 68% of all data breaches. So social engineering awareness is more important than ever. As a matter of fact, at the last DEF CON conference, which is kind of a famous hackers conference, the tool that had the most success for penetrating any kind of network were 3 things, 3 pieces of hardware: a hard hat, a clipboard, and a high-vis safety vest. People were able to get into places that they should not be able to get into simply by carrying those 3 things with them and looking like they were in a hurry. So all of the successful teams at DEF CON all use social engineering as their primary attack vector, and industry experts really expect social engineering, those numbers, to only go up and up as time progresses. So just wanted to call that out and just make sure that everybody is aware that social engineering is the wave of the future as far as data breaches are concerned.
Yeah, thank you for that, Shane. And there's actual companies in other countries that's all they do is figure out how to hack into systems. I mean, they're literally companies. It's just like they have employees, they have a roof over their head, and that's basically all they do. And I think we all know that. But thanks for mentioning that, Shane, and wanted to mention that as well. So, all right, we're kind of wrapping down here on some of the slides and looking forward to some questions from the panel. But let's kind of wrap this up. And Lauren, I'm going to go with you as far as, best practices for student accounts.
Sure. So one of the first thoughts I have kind of goes back to what you and Eric were talking about earlier with surveying students and understanding how you're doing and what you might do differently. And I think really understanding your student population and understanding, well, your student and parent, student and family population, and understanding how they want to be communicated with. We've worked with schools, and each school is different. The traditional undergrads may be more responsive to text messages than emails and phone calls, but you may have a professional school that wants as little communication as humanly possible because they know the general rhythm of things and how to get through the processes, and they don't want to be bombarded with unnecessary communication. So first and foremost, understand how best to engage in families. And then I also stress the importance of clear and simple language. You should always review your communications from the perspective of someone who has no idea how higher education works, how financial aid works, how student accounts works. avoid jargon, avoid acronyms, which I know we love in higher education, is we are the land of acronyms, but avoid them if you can, or at least define them in your communications if you need to use them. And try and stick to just the clearest and simplest explanation to support or guide your students and families through the processes. And then, as we know, students and families don't read their emails each time, if ever. And so it's important to take the time to provide reminders and updates to students and families and guide them through the process. Again, I think I spoke on this earlier, while also being mindful of the number of outbound communications from the institution, because if you're sending reminders at the same time as 5 other offices, the likelihood of that important information getting to the recipient severely reduces. I know that's especially plagues campuses when they're trying to onboard or matriculate new students, and summer communications is always a challenge, but clear and simple language through a medium that is really salient for that population. And when in doubt, try different things and see what gets the best response. I know I worked with one school who's having a really hard time getting responses to their semester balances due. They implemented text messaging and had an extraordinary change in response time to getting balances paid on time before the semester started. So sometimes it can't hurt to try out new methods for communication.
Yeah, that's great information. I really, text is probably the most effective way. But I know these kids today have like 4 or 5 different other ways that they communicate with. But at the end of the day, my kids, 20 and 22, their text messages are very few unread. They're almost all of them are read. But when I look at their email accounts, they'll have like 400 or 500 emails that are unread, which just makes me cringe, right? But text is definitely a great way to communicate with students. And there are some new products out there, particularly surrounding debt collection that you can use for text as well. So, some pretty cool things are happening with that as well. So, Eric, what are some of the tools that you like?
Some of the tools, I'm just thinking of what you said about emails. I probably have a few emails that are unanswered as well right now, just from being in meetings all day today. But some of the tools I like to do for communication for students is making sure that there's a portal system out there. I think you want to make sure that you're leveraging any portal communications that you have out there for students, that when they access that information, they can see those notifications and like a clear little bell. That's what most notifications are, that just actually brings that information in there, making sure that links to indicate whether or not they need to check their balances, make any payments, check financial aid awards, print their billing statement if they need to, or follow up on some other communications, or something that they need to do, sign FERPA agreements, or sign payment agreements that they agree that they're going to make a payment arrangement, either with a payment plan or for collecting your bad debt. I think I remember back in the day that we used to just spend time and, hours after the office closed at 4:30, we would spend about 3 to 4 hours just making phone calls to students to try to collect those bad debt that they have before we sent them over to collections, which, added a little bit of a fee to their balance afterwards. It was a large fee, but it was a little bit of a fee. We wanted to make sure that we sent that over. We call and we did every bit of contact that we could do. We called their campus number. We would call their parents' number, their home permanent number, to make sure that we have that information out there. So, phone calls are not necessarily, it is a little bit old-fashioned, but you still want to continue that as another resource. Automatic messaging notifications. You want to make sure that your system has the ability to send out emails, text messages if it can, to notify students of potential actions that they need to take on their student account, whether it's paying a bill or just accessing to look at their statements. Of course, I think we talked a little bit earlier about chatbots. You can leverage AI to make sure that those chatbots are providing them with the most efficient information. Of course, you have to be cautious. This is AI, still developing tool. Some AI tools are better than others, but you want to make sure that if they do have any questions, that either a chat box can give them an immediate answer out there, 24/7 versus us having, that helpline at the institution where they can call in to our office or submit a ticket if you are using a system that allows ticketing information.
Yeah, and one of the things, when students do have bills, they do like to call. I know even this new generation, I guess Gen X, we would call them is if they are concerned about money, they will pick up the phone and call. And I think having like one of those calendar links, or even like with Microsoft, we have the Teams where you can kind of put a book a time with me. I think having that out there for like the financial aid office, as well as student accounts, where a student can go on there and simply book, a 15-minute time with someone in student accounts or in the financial aid office. It just calms them and gives them some comfort to speak with a human sometimes, and just eases them. I think that's a good best practice. And I am old school. And I still like the postcards, and sending out a postcard. It's very rare you get mail these days, and I think it's a great way to advertise your university. On the front, it has a nice picture of your university. On the back, it says you have some important information. Go to this website and log in, or whatever you want to put on the back to kind of make them aware that they have some action they need to take. I think that's still a good way to kind of get them back in touch with you. So thank you guys so much for all that great information. I'm hoping we've got some questions out there. Taylor, do we have any questions on the chat, or we can open it up to the panel to ask any questions that the attendees might have?
Great question, Tom. We don't have any questions outstanding right now.
All right. Well, you guys are missing out on an opportunity to get an extra name in the drawing at the end of the presentation. But I'll give it just 30 more seconds. You got Eric and Lauren available to answer any questions you might have. No questions. You guys did a great job, Eric and Lauren. You answered everything they needed to know. And now, Shane, I'm going to pass this off to you, and we're going to spend about 10-15 minutes on a quick demo of the intuition payment solution, and then we're going to break out the big wheel and find out who the winner of the Amazon gift card is. So Shane, I'm going to hand it off to you.
We have one question, Tom.
Okay.
And this might lead right into our demo. Paula asks, what does the interface look like?
Yep, we're going to show you right now. That was an easy way to get your name in there twice. So great question. We'll show you right now.
Hi, and I have a question.
Sure.
Also. Are there any back office ERP systems that you have that you're more compatible with than others? Like we use Colleague 5.23, and there have been issues in the past. So I was just curious, have those been overcome?
Yeah, so the new system that we're building, if you're talking about intuition specifically, is being built out to be ERP agnostic. So we should be able to interface with any ERP. But as far as like those particular issues with Colleague, we do have workarounds in place, and everything's running smoothly with that.
Okay. And is it compatible with iOS? Because we've had also issues with that, where most of our students enjoy making payments from their phone. That's one of that they live on their phone. So
yeah,
and we don't have that. So
yeah, so we're guaranteeing support for Chromium-based browsers, but we also do plan on supporting Safari as well. So anybody on iOS could download Google Chrome as their web browser, but Safari support is going to be implemented as well. We're definitely supporting Safari.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll go ahead and share my screen now and give you guys a quick demo of this. I know your time is valuable, so I'll try not to keep you. So this is our what we call our client portal, but this is where the student or the parent would be logging into to access their information. So you can see the homepage here. We're going to call out if you have any notifications, and then like Eric mentioned, most notification icons, it's pretty universally recognized as the bell. So this will just call out notifications. We also have the notification and how many are listed up here. The first thing on this homepage I want to draw your attention to are these cards. These are what we call announcement cards, and these are completely configurable. I know that one of the big pain points that we heard over and over and over again when we talked to our current institutions as well as our future partners was turnaround time whenever any kind of change wanted to be made. So what we've really done is we've built the system to empower the administrators at the institution directly so that if you want to get in touch with us to perform these types of actions, we're more than happy to do it for you. But if you would like to do it yourself, you don't need to involve us in the slightest. You're able to make any changes that you'd like. So below that, we have our active payment plan cards, and I do apologize, some of the data in our demo environment is not functioning correctly at the moment. But you can see here, forgive the dates as well, like this fall 2023 plan, we can see that there's a $6,000 total balance or total amount. $2,000 has been paid, leaving us a $4,000 balance. And we've also implemented that if there are any late payments, that we're going to both highlight that both in red text here, as well as with a graphical element to draw attention to it. We're also going to include a pay now button. One of the things that we've heard over and over today is make it easy for students to make those payments. So we don't want you to have to go searching around through a million different screens to find out where it is you can actually make your payment. We're going to make that as easy as possible for you. Now down below that, we're going to show you all of the transactions on the account, regardless of where they're from. And what's not shown here on this demo version is that we are going to have a description column in here so that you'll easily at a glance be able to tell what that transaction was for. So tuition assistant is the heart of the product. And this is the actual payment plans. You'll be able to come in here and view your active plans. And if I'm here on the home screen, if I click on these view payment plan buttons, it'll just take me to where I'm showing you now. Your payment plans, all the active ones, you'll have a tab at the top for each. Now, the plan balance is going to show you how much you owe. And then again, if there's anything past due, we're going to give you, some kind of graphical indicator that you do have a past due payment. We're going to show you when your last scheduled payment was, if there's any amount outstanding, and then also if there are any past due fees on the account. And you'll see here, once again, you're able to make a payment from any of these cards. Now, the scheduled payments here is going to show you your future payments that have not yet been made. We're going to show you the date, the payment method that you've got set for that payment, the amount, any fees, and then the total. And then transactions here is very similar to the transactions on the home page, but this is going to be payment plan specific. So if I had made a payment on this fall 2023 plan, I wouldn't see any information on this transactions table from the fall of 2024 plan. Plan history is basically just a transactions ledger showing all the transactions that have occurred on any completed plans. So active plans will not show up here. They have to be in the completed status before they go to history. And I do apologize for not being able to show you the actual sign up process for a payment plan, but it's very simple. It's 4 screens. The first screen is who are you? So we'll either collect information about the person signing up for an account, whether that's a student or the parent. We'll collect the student information. The next screen is here are the active plans that you're eligible for, and you select which plan you'd like to sign up for. The third screen is how much do you owe? And if the student doesn't have that information, then we're going to include the capability to include an estimator so that they can just tell us how many credits they have, what fees that they know that they have, are they in a dorm, do they have a meal plan, etc. And then it will generate an estimate based upon that. And the cool thing is, if we can get a 100% match back from the ERP through our person resolution system, they won't have to enter in anything. We'll pull that information from the ERP student account, and that'll be what their payment plan's amount is for. And then the final screen is, here are the terms. Click here to enroll in the payment plan and make your payment. Now, the messages feature, we've heard Lauren talk about, FERP and things like that before. We don't want to send any kind of personal student information across the net at large. So we're not going to send emails that state, thank you for making your payment, your current balance is X. We're going to, for most instances, anything that's covered under regulations, we're going to send the student an email or a text that states you have a message waiting for you on the system. Then they will have to log into our system to view that so that we can make sure that that sensitive data is not being pushed out across the internet at large. Now, these messages in here are not deletable. So there is a permanent record of the communication with the student, and we are currently working on implementing functionality that will allow things like we are able to, for example, give you a message that includes a form that you need to download, fill out, and then you can attach that form and send it back in. The account center is pretty standard. You're going to be able to set up, things like your notifications, your personal information, information. You can change your payment methods here. Now, when I say payment methods, it's very important that I make the distinction that we do not store any PCI data on our end, and the institution does not have access to that PCI data. We will send the student off to our payment processor. They will enter in the student information there. And to get just slightly technical, the payment processor is then going to send us back a stored device token that can then be used to make that payment. So we don't actually store any of this data on our system. This is all given back to us from the payment processor, which keeps us in PCI compliance. Transaction history is just another way to get to your actual transaction history, and this will be a holistic transaction history, not payment plan specific. Now,
Hey, Shane, would you be able to pause for a moment and take a few questions?
Absolutely.
It looks like we have a few questions that are kind of bubbling up. I think Michael has the first question. Michael, go ahead and unmute yourself and say your question.
And my question is more like, how do y'all get paid? Are you taking a cut off the credit card, the discount fee, or is this a product we buy? And then those seem to be the two models I've encountered on payment plans. They're either like our current one just takes us slightly more than the 2.25% for the credit card fee. And then they make a little bit from the student who signs up, payment $30 when they sign up. And then I have some others who have like a big platform. You buy into the platform, it's kind of like a cost of the software more. So I was wondering, if we did go with your product, what would the cost be? How would it work?
Yeah, so it is that first model you mentioned, where there's
Okay.
a nominal enrollment fee, as well as we do make a little bit off of each transaction. Not as much as Visa and MasterCard, but we do make a little off of those
Okay.
transactions.
All right, cool. That's kind of my preferred way to do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like
there's no like upfront cost that I got to get approved, to go with. And
absolutely, that's exactly right.
all right, thank you.
Okay. And John, I see your questions in chat as well. Are we able to skin the interface with our own logos, et cetera? Absolutely. Yeah, this will be completely white labeled. We'll have the it'll be powered by Intuition, appear somewhere on the screen, but you would have your logo up here. Like this Ferrilli University is just a fictional university that we created, but this 100% will be skinnable. So you'll be able to put your logo, use your university's colors, et cetera. And as far as the terms for a student loan, so we don't actually provide student loans. There's a lot of regulations that go into actually providing loans. What we're doing is offering a payment plan. So we're not like paying the university the tuition amount up front and then collecting that money from the student as a loan repayment process. We're providing a payment plan that allows the students to make payments towards the tuition.
Yeah, Shane, great response, and that's exactly right. I think can we switch over to the admin portals? We've got about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure we have time for the drawing. And you guys are going to love this. This is really cool.
So our admin portal contains several KPIs on the homepage, and we're going to be implementing more KPIs, and we're going to allow this to be user configurable. So you'll be able to see the KPIs that you want. And then across the top here on the homepage, you're going to have all of these action items. So every tab that's included on the homepage is going to be something actionable. So I mentioned earlier that if we can get a person resolution match with the ERP that will pull their student account balance down automatically, we have an over 97% success rate at getting a 100% person resolution match. But if we can't, then we have to have a manual process to marry the student account in our system with the ERP. So you go to student verification, you'll see a list of potentials that need to be verified. So when the ERP does not give us a 100% match, when they can't say for certain, yes, this is this person, they'll send us back a list of candidates. And then it's a manual matching process. We can take a look at the possible matches, and then we can match it up, by selecting, this is the account I want, this is the match, I'll submit it. Or if we can't find a match, we can select no match. So that's pretty rare in the grand scheme of things. But this does give us the capability of, I accidentally typed a 4 instead of a 5 for, my birth month or things like that. We can get in contact with the student, make sure this information is correct, and then make that match. Now, user management, we have the capability, or excuse me, the institutions will have the capability of administering their own users as they'd like. So you're able to add administrators, disable administrator accounts, set administrator access levels, all without getting in touch with us. Again, we'll be happy to do it for you if you would like us to, but we put the power in your hands if you choose to do so. One thing is when we're looking at the users, which are our students and parents, there may be a time when a student walks into the bursar's office and talks to somebody or makes a payment, and we may need to know about that, or a student may contact us and then walk into the bursar's office, etc. So these notes are universal, regardless of whether we as intuition admins or you as institution admins, you're able to put notes in here. All of our automatic communications are also included as notes so that there can be a record of the student conversation and interaction between all concerned parties. Now, I know we're getting really close on time here, so I just want to show a couple more things, some more important things. Those announcement templates, these cards that we see here, this is how you set them up. You just create a new announcement template. You put the title, the subtitle. This is a full-fledged HTML editor if you want to get really fancy with it. That's also what you see is what you get editor. The start date for the announcement to run, the date that it stops running with the end date. You can put your images, your image alt text for your screen readers, etc. Upload the image, and you can put new links there. We also do have the same thing for text templates, but as text is, pretty much just simple characters and emojis, then you're just basically limited to just alphanumeric text here. And the last thing I really want to highlight is how easy it is to create a payment plan. So somebody go ahead and Tom, time me on this.
I'm timing it. Go ahead and
All
start.
right.
So as Shane's doing that too, we are one of the few out there that still offer 24/7 support for your parents and students. So if a parent needed questions on the payment plan, they can contact us directly and we will answer all their questions as best we can. Students can also call us and ask us various questions about the payment plan. We do work with our clients to give us some type of leeway related to what we can do with the when they do call and what we can't do, because we can adjust the dates as well as you can too. So I did click 1 minute, Shane. So you didn't beat your last time, but it's still within a minute for sure.
Right. Now, one thing that I do want to highlight is as quick and easy as that was, here's something that I'm really, really proud of us for. This add eligible student button, if you don't add an eligible student, this payment plan is open to your entire student body. The moment that you add an eligible student, and I can do that either by going through and selecting the students one by one from a list of all students, or I can upload a CSV that will import all of those students automatically. The moment that we have even a single entry in here, this payment plan is only available to the students in the list. So this allows you to do things like, as an institution, you've got a student that comes into the bursar's office, I'm having trouble making my payments, I don't know what to do. You can create a specialized payment plan for that student as they're sitting there in under 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I think this is a really cool thing for schools that want to work with students to keep them from going to debt collection, where you can basically create a specific payment plan for that individual. I know some of you are cringing as I say that, but you can, right? It's that simple. It's literally 1 minute and you can custom create a payment plan. So Shane, thank you so much for that quick presentation, and thank you all for attending. We're going to do the raffle here in just 1 second. But if you do or would like to see a more in-depth demonstration of intuition, obviously you can reach out to us on the team and be happy to do so. And so, Taylor, I think I see you taking over. We've got the raffle here. I know there's music on this particular piece here, but we'll have to be innovative and create that for them. So everybody ready? Let's do the wheel to win here. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah. So what I did was I entered everyone individually, and then as you guys ask questions, again, one per each individual. I know some individuals answered more. The wheel will spin. Best of luck to everyone. I wish everyone the best. Good luck, my friends.
Dun 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 dun. Who's it gonna be? That thing's just spinning. I think it reversed on us. Well, how long does this thing spin, Taylor?
It's almost there.
Okay, slowing down. I can't see. I'm gonna have to put on my glasses.
You'll see.
Oh, looks like it's slowing down.
Oh, it's gonna be close.
Looks like it's Terry. Let's see what it does.
Terry, you are our grand
Congratulations.
winner. Congratulations.
And Terry, you got
Tom,
that extra entry because you asked the question.
I know. Good job, Terry. So I'll reach out to you, Terry. Let's go ahead, Terry.
Tom will be out to you.
Okay.
I know you're super excited. Great job, everyone. So, hey, thank you guys so much for spending an hour with us. I hope it was valuable and you're able to take away something that you can apply at your institution today. And thank you, Eric and Lauren, for joining us. You guys were awesome. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Give you 1 minute back. Thank you, guys.
Is there any outstanding questions or anything that you guys have that we can answer quickly? I know that there was a couple towards the end. The intuition team is happy to help you guys if there are any.
I'll go through them and see if I missed any, Taylor, and respond back to them.
Awesome. But thank you, Eric, and thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Shane, and thank you, Tom, and thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great afternoon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.